In this clip, I'd like to teach you how to make a flower essence. I'm Kathleen Aspens from the School for Flower Essence Studies, and I'm also a flower essence practitioner and maker. I make flower essences under the Flora of Asia brand, and I've made hundreds of flower essences over the years, and I'd like to show you how. This is a really great way to get to know a plant better and to make medicine for yourself and for your family. So, super simple. Just get your materials together. You're going to need a bowl. Use a very plain, unmarked glass bowl, no designs, nothing fancy, just a plain glass bowl. And go ahead and sanitize it in boiling water. And in order for me to go out into the field, you're going to want to wrap it in something. I usually use some really clean, freshly laundered tea towels. And go ahead and have your bowl ready. Have a source of water. If you are not so blessed as to have a perfectly clear running spring nearby, that's obviously the ideal, but not everyone has that potential. You can use spring water in a bottle if that's what's available to you. Definitely something that's still not a sparkling water, as clean as you can get. As good a brand as you can get. Nothing fancy added, just spring water. That's all you want. And my preference is for spring water in glass. Go ahead and bring something with you to take the flowers. I use chopsticks most of the time because I'm facile with using them, but you can use tweezers or you can also just use the leaves of the plant in order to grasp the flowers because that's important not to touch the flowers. I also bring a bottle with me, a clean amber bottle that I will. For me, I like to pre-fill it with the preservative so that when I'm closing the essence, it's ready to go. So I will fill that halfway, and this is sterilized, of course. I fill this halfway with brandy so that it's all ready to go for the mother essence when it's complete. I tend to bring a funnel with me, and I sterilize these also because it's easier to get a bowl into a bottle without spilling all over the place. And then bring a notebook and a pen or however you want to take notes. It's really important to be able to connect to the experience and to be able to write down what happened because you probably won't remember later. And then a label because these bottles, they all look like the next one. Definitely, if you bring a label with you, you make sure you've labeled your bottle in the moment, and then you're much more likely to not get confused as to what bottle is what. Also, think about bringing a camera. Most of us will have our phones with us anyways, so we can take pictures of the situation, take pictures of the flower and the bowl as it making. That's always a nice thing. So, how do we go about now that we've got our materials together? We want to be in a location. We probably know what plant we're interested in working with. The location needs to be a place that's undisturbed, unpolluted, a nice, healthy environment, whether that's in the wild, in an area that you have permission to use, or whether that's in a garden or your garden. Make sure it's just the appropriate place where the flower is absolutely growing beautifully, where the plant is healthy and not polluted and not by a roadside where it's getting fumes and such. Use your judgment. The day, the moment. It has to be a really clear, sunny day. And certain seasons, this can be really a challenge, but that's part of the process of making essences. It needs to be a day when the plant is absolutely at its best, where it is at full peak bloom, where it's just radiant. And you'll know because the plant will be completely visited by all the pollinators will be very interested in this plant. And that's a really good sign that it's absolutely at this peak moment of potential, of shift, of change, of the possibility of the next generation. That's that magic that flower essences can offer is the plants interacting with the animal world. And that animal world could be us too. So the plant has to be ready and it also has to be willing. And usually I will have developed a relationship with whatever plant I'm interested in working with by visiting it regularly over the years. And I have certainly had times where making a flower essence, it took me years to get an okay from the plant in order to develop a relationship to the degree that the plant wanted to work with me. And oftentimes, if you're growing a plant in your garden, that is part of your intention for growing it is to work with the plant, whether it's as an herb or as a cut flower or as an essence. And so a lot of times it's easier to get a yes from your own plant that's growing in your garden that knows you and is expecting to have this happen. But you always want to make that connection before you ever work with the medicine of a plant, is to make sure you're not taking. You are working with them intentionally, and you are asking for permission. So once you've got permission, that's great. And then go ahead and start it in the morning. The best time is as early in the morning as you can manage. You want it to be the sun be fully out. Usually the dew is evaporating off of the plants and they're just absolutely getting ready for a big day of pollination. That's usually the best time to go. And then you put what you do, it's really quite a simple process. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be filling your bowl up with the water, the spring water if you can get it, or the bottled if you don't have that. Fill it up to the top as much as you can, and then go ahead and take the flowers and float them on the surface of the bowl. And you'll want to, as much as you can, fill the surface of the bowl so that the light is shining through the flowers. You don't want to touch the flowers as you're picking them, which is where I use the chopsticks, and I'll pick the flowers with chopsticks. But tweezers work too. And also sometimes you can just take a leaf of the plant and use that as sort of a little bit of a cover on your fingers. You fold it in half and pinch, and go ahead and take that and put it into the water, put the flower into the water without touching the water or the flower, using the leaf as a little tool. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Or there's lots of ways to do it. And go ahead and fill the bowl with the flowers on the surface of the water. And then the bowl and the flowers and the water sits out in the sunlight. Try not to have your shadow fall over the bowl. It's sort of a practice, is to figure out how to do this with the sun being where it is. Go ahead and make sure that you have and sit with the bowl and spend that time with the bowl. This is not a mechanical process. This is not making a sun tea. That's a whole different story. This is making a flower essence, and your energy and your intention and your connection with the plant, with the sunlight, with the environmental forces around you, it's what's making that shift of the energy of the flowers into that water. So your heart, your attention, your presence is really important. And so I will be sitting with this bowl for the process of time in which it takes to make the essence. Generally speaking, we're looking at about 3 hours, maybe 4 hours. The traditional dictum from Dr. Bach was to wait until the flowers started to wilt. And some flowers are so delicate that they start to wilt pretty quickly, depending on your temperature and the strength of the sun. There's a lot of variables in here. And then there are some flowers which would be so sturdy that they could sit there for a week in the sun and they probably still look great. So, that's not necessarily a deal breaker if the flower doesn't ever wilt. What I'm looking for a lot of times is after, 3 hours or so in the sunlight, you'll definitely notice a shift in the water. You'll start to be splotching and you'll see that the water becomes sparklier. There'll be bubbles forming. It just looks different. What can I say? After that amount of time in the sunlight, it's just going to start to look different. And that's when you'll know, when the flowers start to show that they're kind of given up what they have to offer and the water starts to sparkle, that that's about the right time. So it'll be a few hours. And then once that's done, then I will go ahead and remove the flowers from the bowl and do the same protocol. You don't want to touch the flowers and you don't want to touch the water. So I'll use my chopsticks or tweezers or a little leaf or a twig to get them out, a twig of the same plant, to go and get them out. And if there is any sort of pollen or sometimes you'll even have a few ants or creatures in the bowl. I will oftentimes put an unbleached coffee filter in my funnel in order to make sure that the water that goes into the mother bottle is super clean. And we're working in the wild. We're working out in the ocean, out in the open. So things happen, and there's little creatures, and a lot of times it's the pollen that I really want to make sure that I've removed from the bottle so that it's very, very stable. You don't want to have any organic matter in your mother bottle. So I've gotten all the creatures and the flowers out of my bowl. I have my potentized water now. I've got this ready to be mother essence. And I'll go ahead and pour this through the funnel into my bottle. And I have prepared this bottle with half brandy so that by the time it hits the water hits here, now it's sterilized and stabilized for very long term. This water will this mother essence can last for years and years and years. So don't worry about that. It's stabilized at a pretty high level of the alcohol, and that holds the energetic in that moment. And that is really all there is to making a flower essence. And this is the mother stock. And we call this the mother because the mother can have many, many children. And you can go ahead and use this mother in order to make stock formula, which is what you would be buying over the counter, as it were. So you'd have a bottle of this white chestnut from the Healing Herbs. That's my preference for the Bach brand. And basically, they're taking 2 drops of this mother essence into a neutral solution for this stock bottle. And then this is the stock level, and then you dilute it down one more time. So you'd be taking the stock level, 2 drops of the stock level, into a dosage bottle. So from mother to stock to dosage, a couple layers of dilution. So this mother bottle, you don't need to make big mother bottles. They will last you for a very long time. So I hope that helped answer some questions about how to make a flower essence. Obviously, the process is very simple, but the actual execution of it can be really complex and really rich, because in that hours long stretch when you're sitting with the plant, when you're sitting with the essence making, you'll be getting downloads of information. You'll be writing down your feelings. You'll be writing down your notes. You'll be getting information from the plant in whatever way that you do. And that's part of the medicine too. It's that connection, and it'll tell you how to use the flower essence. So if you're interested in learning more about flower essences or flower essence making, you can join us at the School for Flower Essence Studies. We have free monthly live events, and we also have courses for beginners all the way up to advanced practitioners. We hope that you join us and become part of our community, and to join us for a class sometime soon. See you soon.